Yas Espedia, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. I hope your day and your week are going very well so far. The NFL Week 16 is officially here, and I have some picks to go ahead and share with you guys. But first, as always, people, please make sure to go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and drop a comment down below. It helps the channel grow, and it really does mean a ton to us. With a new day and a new week comes some new opportunities to go ahead and make some money. As always, guys, I have a ton of NFL picks to go ahead and share with you guys for this week's NFL slate. Real quick, we do have to do a recap of last week, but before that, a quick little kind of apology for this video coming out so late. Obviously, it's coming out very late on Sunday morning, so you're not going to have too much time between now and the games for these picks. I do apologize for that. It's been a little bit of a hectic week between the holidays, and then we got some pretty bad news over the past couple of days. If you guys have been here for a while, you know a couple months ago, my grandmother, my yaya, over in Greece had a big surgery. She's been battling cancer for over 6 years now. We got some bad news over the past week that it's not going well. The cancer has progressed in a very bad way, and unfortunately, there's not too much left we can do. We actually literally just like an hour ago booked my dad's flight, my father's mother, to go over to Greece to go be with her. So it's been a little bit of a rough time between the hectic of the holidays and all the Christmas parties, and then leading up to all that, and now having this news come out. It's been tough. So all that has sort of affected the release schedule. So I do apologize for this video coming out so late. Again, it's not just the grandmother news is more of a newer thing, but it all adds together. And I just want to say I'm sorry for the video coming out a little later than normal. I try and get them out on time, at least like Thursday, Friday time. But this week it just couldn't happen. So yeah, I just want to let you guys know so you guys don't think I'm just being lazy and not doing it. There's just a little bit of a rough week here. I would appreciate if you guys would keep my grandmother, my yaya, in your prayers. My family would appreciate it. I would appreciate it. And as always, guys, appreciate the support for everything all year round from you guys. All right, let's continue on. Let's carry on here. We have a quick little recap of how we did last week before we dive into today's picks. And overall, guys, we had a really solid week. Jumping over to GuyBostonSports.com, you can see all my plays, all the videos, everything is all there on the website. Those are always going to be in the pinned comment down below in the video. Overall, pretty solid week last week. We went 9-5 on our single bets. We are now 96-64-4 on our single bet record this year, which is pretty crazy to say that we're having this good of a season. Definitely one of the better seasons I've ever had. I've usually always done very well in the NFL, but 96-64-4 on single bets is a pretty impressive record. But yeah, overall, really solid week last week. And then looking at the parlays and teasers, we didn't do too many parlays and teasers last week, but what we did hit. So we had a nice plus 178 parlay there, plus 130 teaser, and a minus 140 teaser. Overall, pretty solid week overall. We won quite a hefty amount of units last week. Let's see if we can keep that energy up again this week and maybe even do a little bit better. So guys, without further ado, let's dive right into today's picks. All right, guys, jumping right into the outlier screen. Our first pick in this week's NFL slate, we're targeting the Bengals-Browns game, 1 p.m. kickoff. We're going with the Bengals here, -8 on the spread. Now, the actual spread, I think, is like 9.5. We bought a 1.5 down, where this is minus 130 on DraftKings, minus 125 on ESPN Bet. So still pretty good value there at the -8 line, just shaving about a 1.5 off this mark. The Bengals earlier in the week were like a 6.5, 7-point favorite, and now they've jumped all the way up to 9.5 points. Obviously, the Browns are 3-11. They've benched Jameis Winston. This team is obviously kind of packing it up for the year, it feels like. Yes, they still have playmakers on both sides of the ball. They have Jerry Jeudy, David Njoku on the offense. On the defensive side, they still have Myles Garrett and a couple other pieces. But overall, this Browns team just feels done. And the Bengals, on the other hand, are clinging on for dear life. Now, they've increased their playoff chances. It's just shy of 10%. Still a long shot, but they have a realistic shot, but they have to win out, which means they have to win this game at home against the Browns. They've already played once this year. It was a close game. The Bengals won 21-14 back on October 20th. The Bengals, I think, are a better team now than they were back then. They've really hit their stride of late. I like Cincinnati in this spot. I just think there's so much, the motivation factor plays a big role here. There's so much more at stake for the Bengals. They need to win this game. If you're the Browns, honestly, you kind of want to lose this game for draft pick purpose. I know the players don't necessarily care about that as much, but I just don't think the Browns, with the season they've had, all the things they've gone through, I just don't see this team really rallying here. Whereas the Bengals, with everything they've gone through, all the close losses and whatnot, the fact they still have a shot is pretty impressive. I think they're going to rally here, take care of business, get the win, and get the win pretty solid. The Bengals also are 6-2, 75% hit rate against the spread in their last 8 games as a favorite. So pretty good numbers there. And the Browns offense is just egregious. The Bengals defense has been their weakness. I just don't think the Browns offense can take advantage of the weaknesses in the Bengals defense. These are two of the Bengals 31st in scoring defense, but the Browns 30th in scoring offense. So I just don't know where Cleveland we'll go and take advantage. Look at the passing yards numbers. It says 17th, but a lot of that was with Jameis Winston just yucking it up. Now they have Dorian Thompson-Robinson in there. He's not the same kind of quarterback. They're not going to have the passing success they had with Jameis. I know Jameis also comes with a lot more interceptions, but I do like the Bengals on this spot. -8. It's a high line, but I do think the Bengals are good enough to at least cover it in this spot. All right, guys, next up we got Rams, Jets, 1 p.m. kickoff on Sunday. I actually have 2 picks coming from this game. Our first pick, we're going Rams on the spread, -3, -105 on FanDuel. If you watched H-H this week, if you haven't, please make sure to go ahead and check that out. But if you have watched H-H this week, you know this is my favorite pick of the entire week. Some people have spoken about the weather. Some people have spoken about other factors. I genuinely don't know why this line is where it is, why it's so small. There does appear to be a little sharp action on the Jets, which is a little concerning here. And the fact that the line hasn't moved means the public is not really hammering the Rams here too much. I don't know. Maybe I'm stupid. This just feels like the easiest pick of all time, which is why maybe I should be a little more concerned. Why are the Jets only 3-point underdogs to this Rams team? The Rams have been on a great run of late. They beat the 49ers, kind of an ugly game, but they still won and won by 6 points. They beat the Buffalo Bills, one of the hottest teams in the NFL, who just beat the Lions the following week. I mean, since the Rams have gotten their weapons back, they've been a better team. Now, they have some bad losses here and there. The Eagles' loss was bad. The Dolphins' loss was not very great, but they've also beaten Minnesota. They beat Seattle. They beat Buffalo. They beat San Francisco. Like, they have some good wins on their resume. And this offense is explosive with Cooper Kupp and Puka and Kyron, and this offense is just so firepower heavy. I just don't see how the Jets are going to keep this game close. Now, I know the Rams' defense is not very good, but are we really relying on Aaron Rodgers and this Jets offense to hang around here? I feel like people are overvaluing that Jets-Jaguars game a little too much. The Jets obviously won. They scored over 3 touchdowns in that game. I think we're overvaluing that. That was the Jacksonville Jaguars, to be fair, and the Jets needed a last-second victory to beat the Jaguars. Let's just think about that for a second. That's the Jaguars. They barely hung on there. Mac Jones and that offense scored over 20 points on this Jets defense. What was the final score of that game? 32-25. Okay, they give up 25 points to Mac Jones and the Jaguars. What is Matt Stafford and Puka Nacua and the Rams going to do to this Jets defense? The Jets team is a dumpster fire, and this all year long, the market has overvalued the Jets, and that's what I think is going to happen here. I think it's the same thing, and for the Rams, it's also been the opposite. The market has not valued them enough. We saw that in the Niners game at Thursday Night Football. They were plus 125. I doubled down on that one on HDH as well. Put 2 units on that play and cashed it. The market is not valuing the Rams where they should be, and the market is overvaluing the Jets far too much. I know they're underdogs at home here, and I guess the home factor might be, but the Jets fans at home, really that big of a factor? I don't know. I just think this line is crazy. I think the Rams should at least be 4.5, 5.5 point favorites here, but they're only 3. I think it's a gift. It's -105, 2, almost even odds. You can buy half a point off and still have good value at 2.5. I love the Rams in this spot. I just think the Jets are not a good team. And what left do they have to play for at this point? I mean, I just don't get it. There's so much drama with this team, which is a typical with an Aaron Rodgers team. But I just love the Rams in this spot. The Jets defense is not that good anymore. And yeah, they had a great offensive showing last week against the Jaguars. Do we really trust this offense to keep doing that over and over? I don't know, but I like the Rams here -3. And piggybacking off of that, I like Rams team total over 23.5 points, which is from -135 on DraftKings. Now, the data, believe it or not, is not that great here. You see just a 36% hit rate this year for the Rams, 5 out of 14 games, averaging 22.14 points per game this season. It's just tough to grade this team this year because you see the beginning of the year where they had all these misses. They didn't have Puka Nacua. They didn't have a lot of their weapons earlier in the year. This team was a struggling team early in the season. We narrowed to the last 10 games. You do see those lows of the last 2 games where they didn't have their weapons. The Minnesota game is where they got Puka Nacua back. It's where they got their offense back to 100% healthy. They scored 30 points on the Vikings and 26 points on Seattle. They've had some stinkers in there, but they played some good defense. The Niners defense, the Saints defense is not very good, but they're actually not. They're about middle of the road, I would say, defensively. The Eagles defense has been really solid. So I do think this Rams offense is solid. 44 points versus the Bills. Of course, the Bills defense not that great either. This Jets team gave up 25 points to Mac Jones and the Jaguars. That's where I'm going to keep leaning on this side. Is just like they give up 25 points to, and as a Patriots fan, I've seen plenty enough of Mac Jones to know what he can bring. And the Jaguars offense obviously has been banged up. They don't really have a great offense to begin with. Mac Jones and the Jaguars scored 25 points. Why can't the Rams, with all their weapons and all their firepower, score 24? I think it's an easy bet, in my opinion. Rams -3. Rams team total over 23.5 points. Next up, guys, we got Cardinals, Panthers, 1 p.m. kickoff. I have 2 picks coming from this game as well, and this might not be a smart strategy, what I'm going to do here. It's kind of double dipping, but I like both spots. So we're going to start off with the over here, 46.5 in this Cardinals-Panthers game. It's minus 110 on FanDuel. Now, granted, the Cardinals defense has been getting better and better as the season has gone along. However, that being said, the overs cash in a decent amount of their games, 50-50 so far over the last 10 games. Look at the season totals for both of these teams. You see the numbers go up a little bit, 57% overall in the season for Arizona. They were on a nice cover streak there where there was like 4 weeks in a row where the under was cashing. And listen, their defense definitely got better, but let's be realistic here. The Bears offense, the Jets offense, the Seahawks offense, I don't remember if I think DK was out that game. And then you got the Vikings offense, which is the one game where they gave up, a pretty decent amount of points. Under still cash, but they had a streak there where they were playing these offenses that were just either not good or inconsistent. And then since then, they played, Seattle again. The next time they cashed the over, they played New England. That over cashed. The Cardinals are going to do most of the heavy lifting here with the scoring. You look at Carolina, they've cashed the over in 50% of their games as well this season. Again, I think the Panthers defense is not good at all. And we look at the numbers on the right side of the screen. 32nd scoring defense, giving up almost 30 points per game to opposing teams. They struggle against the run. The Cardinals are a top 10 running team in the NFL. They're a decent passing team as well. The Panthers actually have a pretty decent pass defense, but rushing defense has been abysmal, the worst in the NFL. And the Cardinals obviously have a really strong strength there. Solid offensive line as well. So the Panthers obviously have no pass rush. Kyler Murray's going to have all day to sit in the pocket and operate. We saw what happened last week when they played New England in that same spot. Kyler Murray had all day to work, and he took advantage of that Pats defense. The Panthers defense is even worse than that, and they have a worse pass rush than even New England's. So I think that Arizona will do most of the heavy lifting here. But I do think with Carolina, the way they've been playing now, they had a bad loss to the Cowboys, but previous to that, they were on a pretty good run where they beat the Saints, they beat the Giants, they almost beat the Chiefs, they almost beat the Buccaneers. They played Philly tough. That Cowboys loss was really rough, but Bryce Young and the Panthers have been playing much better over the last month and a half or so. And so I do think they should be able to score enough points to push this over. I think Arizona should score in the ballpark of 30 points in this game. I think 30-17, the same score they beat New England last week, is a very realistic outcome for this game, or 30-20, something in that ballpark. I think Carolina should be able to score enough points on this Cardinals defense where they'll help push that total over, because I think Arizona will do most of the heavy lifting here. And again, what I meant by piggybacking and kind of double dipping, I did the Cardinals team total over 24.5 as well as the general over. Again, I think Arizona's going to score close to 30 points in this game. They're going to do most of the heavy lifting here. And with that in mind, I'm going to take the team total over. Now, this could end up being horribly bad because if the Cardinals don't score 24.5 points and the over probably doesn't hit either, so you get both losses. But I really think Arizona's going to score a healthy amount of points in this game. It's sort of double dipping. It's also sort of insurance in the sense that it maybe Carolina doesn't score enough points. Maybe this ends up finishing, 26-14, and then we miss the over. This kind of gives us some insurance. It's double dipping. It's also insurance. Again, I don't know if it's a smart strategy to take the over and the team total over, but we're doing it here. Cardinals team total over 24.5. They've cashed in 6 out of 14 games this year, just a 43% hit rate. But if we narrow that down to the last 10, still just 40%. But over the last, let's say 7 games, 4 of the last 7, they've cashed the over. They've had a couple of nice 30-point games there. So I do like Arizona. And then the matchup is just too sweet. 32nd scoring defense in the NFL. Carolina gives up a ton of points. Cruising right along here. Next up, we got Eagles, Commanders, 1 p.m. kickoff. I'm going Eagles -3. Now, this is an alternate line. We're buying. I think the spread's 4.5. Or 4. So we're not going to point off here. It is a little bit juiced. It's -147 on DraftKings, -150 on ESPN Bet. A little juice there, but I think it's worth it, taking that extra point or so off. The last time these two teams played earlier this year, the Eagles won 26-18. Washington is not the same team they were at that time. I think Washington's fallen off a little bit. Over the last month or two, they've since really that miracle win over the Bears, it's been kind of ugly. They barely beat the Giants. They lose to the Steelers. They lose to the Eagles. They lose to the Cowboys. A really rough 3-game losing streak there. Then they lose. Then they got a little word jumble there. Then they come back off their bye week or before their bye week, I should say, and they get a big win versus Tennessee. But that's the Titans. The Titans are 3-11, not really a big achievement. Then they come off their bye week, and they did beat the Saints last week, but they barely hung on and barely survived against that Saints team. I just do not like the Commanders' form right now. Again, you probably could take the 4-point line to be safe. I think buying the extra point, taking it to 3, gives you some insurance in the event that Washington keeps this game close. It is a division game. These games typically can get a little dicey, can get a little close. It protects you that if it's a field goal game, you at least get the push here. Value obviously isn't as good, but I do think it's a safer play and probably the smarter play. The Eagles right now look like the best team in the NFL. Detroit with all the injuries, I don't know what to think of them here, but the Eagles have looked great. A huge win against the Steelers last week. They've been on a really great run. I mean, they beat Washington, Rams, Ravens, and Steelers in each of their last 5 games. The Carolina game was a little dicey, but they still came out and won. They've been on a really great run. Again, these are all playoff caliber teams. Washington, LA, Baltimore, and Pittsburgh are all playoff caliber teams, and they beat all of them. And look at the cover rate of this -3 line. They've covered -3 every game since that September 29th loss to Tampa Bay. So in the last 2-3 months, they have been a cover machine. Overall this year, 64% cover rate. They are on the road here. Like I said, it's a divisional game. You never know. But I do think the Eagles are just so significantly better. This Commanders team has been really dicey. So I like to see Philadelphia here -3. All right, guys. Next up, we got Falcons Giants 1 p.m. kickoff. I'm gonna fall for the trap here and take Atlanta -9. I think this is more about the Giants just being an absolute dumpster fire, and the Falcons. Obviously, we now move on from Kirk Cousins, Michael Penix Jr. making his first career NFL start. The Falcons being 9-point favorites here is kind of crazy considering he's a rookie quarterback in his first start. But Michael Penix Jr., if you watched him last year at Washington, was very, very impressive. This Falcons offense is loaded, and I think it speaks volumes to how bad Kirk Cousins was over the last month or so that Penix comes in and they are a 9-point favorite in this spot. Because truth be told, if Cousins was still playing and starting, I think this line would not be this high. This would probably be a 6.5-point line instead of the 9-point line. Yes, the Falcons, their last game out, they did beat the Raiders, but that's a hopeless Raiders team, and the Falcons kind of struggled to win that game as well. I just think the Falcons, with all the weapons they have, all the strengths they have, they should be able, with Penix Jr., to move the ball a little better and should be able to score a healthy amount of points on this Giants team. Yes, the Falcons defense is awful, but this is one of the only matchups this year where you're going to see them go against a team that can't take advantage of it. The Giants are 32nd in scoring offense. They are absolutely terrible offensively, and so I like Atlanta in the spot. I know 9 points is a little high. Atlanta feels like a really good teaser team for me. Like, to knock a touchdown off of this line would be great. I think Atlanta definitely wins this game. I just think that the 9 points. I just don't trust the Giants at all to really contribute anything to this. I'm buying high on Michael Penix. I think he's gonna have a really good debut here. Risky, absolutely, but I'm gonna ride with the Falcons here -9. We also have another one of these instances where you have motivation versus non-motivation. The Giants right now, there's nothing. They're 2-12, I think. Nothing left to play for. They're in the line for #1 overall pick. I know that's not something the players truly care about, but I do think the Giants front office and coaches maybe care a little bit about. I just don't think the Giants have anything really to rally for here, where the Falcons, they can still win the division realistically. They can still make the playoffs, but they have to win out. They have to take advantage of the matchup. So I think there's an extra motivation factor for Atlanta to come out here, win big, and tell the NFL, hey, we're still here. Next up, we got Lions, Bears, 1 p.m. kickoff in Chicago. I'm dicey on this game. I'm going to take the Lions here, -6.5, which is available for -118 on FanDuel, available on multiple sports books for varying odds. It'll be interesting to see how Detroit plays. They lost last week, obviously, in a really close, big battle with Buffalo. This Lions defense is blown to smithereens. They have so many injuries. We talked about it the last couple of weeks about how the injuries would affect this team, and then as we said that, more and more injuries continue to pile up. Now they even have injuries to the offense with David Montgomery being out potentially for the season. It just doesn't look good here for Detroit. The last time these two teams played on Thanksgiving was a really tight battle, but the Lions did dominate the first half. That game was not as close as it seemed because the Lions, they should have scored way more than 23 points in that one. I have my concerns with the line being this high, especially on the road in Chicago, divisional game with all the injuries. Are the Lions going to be able to come back and cover this number? Now, the problem is that the Bears have been so bad since they fired Eberflus. I just can't ride with them here. I bet on the Bears each of the last 2 weeks thinking that, the firing of Eberflus would motivate this team. It's actually done the opposite, and all the people, including myself, who call Eberflus a joke, it's been kind of humbling to see that since they fired him, this team has completely bottomed out. They didn't just lose the last 2 weeks. They got blown out the last 2 weeks. The Vikings one, not as surprising. They're a good team, but the Niners one was really bad considering the Niners have been kind of terrible the last month or so. Listen, Eberflus had to go, absolutely, but the fact that they're this bad since firing him, I know they're both road games. I know they're both, decent NFC teams, but not good spots for the Bears. I just don't trust them here in this spot. I don't feel great about this game. I did skip a couple games this week, if you guys can't tell already. Raiders, Jaguars, Colts, Titans. I skipped those games. I just don't want anything to do with those spots. I almost skipped this one, but obviously, number one, we had to make some plays. But number two, if I had to pick a side, I do like Detroit here. I think the Lions are clearly the better team still. I just wonder with all the injuries how they're going to look. I do think coming off that Bills loss, they will be a little extra motivation factor coming into this game. And again, the Bears have just been so bad. It's hard for me to want to take them again after losing the last 2 weeks in horrible fashion betting them. So I'll take the Lions here, -6.5. And if they lose, I'll feel at least a little more comfortable with that if they do lose. But I do think they have a pretty good shot to go ahead and cover here. Next up, guys, Vikings, Seahawks, 4:05 p.m. kickoff. We're going with the under here, 42.5 in this game. Picking a side was really tough in this one. I think the under is the way to go. Both these teams, now not really much Seattle, but for Minnesota, a 57% cover rate on the under overall this year. Seattle, just a 29% cover rate in the under, 71% cover rate on the over. I like the under here. The Vikings, we know defensive, they've been really solid all year long. If you look at the right side of the screen here, this is the second best scoring defense in the NFL. They are second in rushing yards allowed, which is pretty good. Second best rushing defense. Their pass defense, they have some weaknesses. That's the risk of running a defensive scheme where it's so blitz heavy. You sometimes open yourself to stuff over the top, and the Vikings secondary in general isn't all that great, but they've got a great pass rush, obviously, with the blitz, and the big advantage here for Minnesota is the fact that Seattle's offensive line is not very good. Tied for 29th in sacks, tied for 27th in QB hits, 28th in tackles for loss. Minnesota's defense should be able to cause a lot of havoc on this Seahawks offense. Now, they could get a couple of touchdowns here and there where Geno Smith maybe gets one off early, a nice little bomb to DK Metcalf potentially. But overall, I just don't see Seattle's offense scoring many points in this matchup. And then on the flip side, Seattle's defense has been playing better. I know they've had a couple of bad games, like versus Green Bay, giving up 30 points. But their defense overall has been playing better. Mike McDonald's defense is starting to take hold in Seattle. Going into that Green Bay game on Sunday night, the defense had been playing very well overall. And Minnesota's offense, I know Darnold's had a couple of really big games, and Chicago had a big game, Atlanta had a big game. But I do think this Vikings offense, you can slow them down. I think Minnesota will do most of the heavy lifting. I think the Vikings will win this game. I think Minnesota will do most of the heavy lifting in this spot, but I just don't see Seattle contributing enough to the scoring to cash this over. This game feels like 21-16 Minnesota is kind of what I see this game going as. I think it's going to be a little lower scoring. I think Minnesota will probably carry most of the load in terms of scoring. I just don't see Seattle contributing enough for the over. So I like the under here at 42.5 and decent value too at -102 on FanDuel. Next up, we got Bills, Patriots, 4:25 p.m. kickoff. And as a Patriots fan, I can tell you firsthand this game is going to be bad. Really bad. We're going with the Bills -14. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it or take rush any time. We're going to go right to the second pick, too. We got Bills team total over 30.5 points, -108 odds here on DraftKings. The Bills have actually covered this line in 57% of their games this year, which is pretty crazy. The Bills this year, I believe they're the number one scoring offense. They are number 2. Second highest scoring offense, averaging almost 32 points per game. They've cashed this in 57% of the games. Look at the disparity there, 30 points. Even when they're missing, they're just barely missing. If you take a half a point off, if you take 1 point off, take this to 29.5, which you could do. You could take the 29.5, which is available for -135 on DraftKings, so that might not be an even worse play. 79% hit rate on that one. We're going to take the extra one because I do think Buffalo, they will score over 30 points in this one, so we'll take them over 30.5. I know the data is a little bit worse, but overall, it's still really good. This Patriots team is not good, guys. It's not good. I've watched them enough this year to tell you guys it's not a good team. Drake May makes them somewhat interesting, but maybe the Patriots, the over is not a bad play in general in this game. I like the Bills team total over. I think the over is not a bad play in general because I do think that Drake May and the Patriots offense could score some points. This Bills defense is not particularly great. We've seen that the last couple of weeks. Although they've scored a lot of points, they've also given up a lot of points in these games. The over seems like a fantastic play in this spot, but I think the Bills team total over in general is a good play. I mean, do I have to really go in depth on this one? New England's just not a good team. They're not well coached. This defense, which is normally the strength of the team, they're tied for 23rd in scoring defense. They're 21st against the run, 16th against the pass. They don't have much of a pass rush. They don't really force too many turnovers. One of the worst teams in terms of forcing turnovers, less than a turnover a game. There's just nothing they're really good at, honestly. They're the only thing that they're top 20 in. Yards per play, they're tied for 17th. And then passing yards allowed, they're 16th. Other than that, they're bottom 12 in every category, bottom 10 in every category in defense. And the Bills' offense, if you look at, they're pretty much top 10 in every category except for they allow a couple QB hurries a game. But this Bills' offense is ridiculously good. And again, the flip side, like for the spread purposes, -14. The Patriots could end up scoring some points in this game because the Bills' defense is a little weak, but I still think Buffalo should rinse them. This game, honestly, could get really bad. 37-17, 37-20 is kind of where I see this game going. New England will score some points here. Drake May will make a couple of great plays, but Buffalo should absolutely destroy this Patriots team. And they will because there's a lot of hatred built up there from the Tom Brady years for 2 decades, we literally crushed the Bills. You know this team loves beating up on the Patriots. You know this fan base loves beating up on the Patriots now that we're a weaker opponent. They're giving us the payback for all those years. They are going to eviscerate New England in this game. So Bills minus 14 and the team total over 30.5 points. That is my play for this game. All right, guys, 2 picks left. Next up, we got Dolphins, Niners, 4:25 p.m. kickoff. I'm going Dolphins money line here, plus 110 on ESPN Bet. Now, Miami, obviously, really brutal loss last week to the Texans. Kind of killed their playoff hopes. They're still technically alive at 6-8, but they have to win out, and then they need a couple other things to happen in order for them to get in. They lose this game to the Niners. Their season is officially over. Luckily for them, they play the 49ers. This Niners team, besides that Bears game, which now just more looks like an outlier than anything, this Niners team is done. Their season's over. They're also 6-8, but their path to getting they're not mathematically eliminated, but their path to getting in is very difficult. They have to basically, I'd say, win the division probably to make the playoffs because the wild card race is so tight in the NFC and the teams are so good. I mean, Minnesota is a wild card team right now. Just let that sink in. So I like the Dolphins here. I think they're just more to play for. They're at home as well. Coming off that Texans loss, I do think Miami will rally here and get the win. I don't know if it's going to be – I think it's going to be kind of a closer game because the Niners can still move it a little bit, but, I don't know. That Rams loss on Thursday night was really bad. This Niners team is beaten. Devondre Campbell scandal and everything. Like, this team is really in a rough spot. They do have some extended rest, which does give them some benefit coming into this spot. But I'd rather take the value with Miami. I think this is a pretty much of a coin flip game. The Dolphins at home with a little bit more at stake. They'd still have a chance to make the playoffs. I'll take the plus money with them. Like I said, the Niners team, besides that Bears win, they lost to Seattle, lost to Green Bay, lost to Buffalo. Some blowout losses there. They lose to the Rams. The Bears win just seems like an outlier. And even go back to the last 2 wins before that, they barely survived Tampa Bay. That's when they didn't have Mike Evans. They barely survived Dallas, and then they lost to Kansas City pretty badly. So it's been a rough couple months there for the Niners. I think their season's effectively over. It will be with a loss here officially. But yeah, I just don't like the Niners in this spot. So give me Dolphins money line here. And then our final single bet for this week's slate, guys, we're moving on to Monday Night Football, Saints-Packers, 8:15 p.m. kickoff. Again, the spreads are really weird this week. The matchups are kind of weird. The Packers are 14-point favorites for good reason. The Saints are on like their third-string quarterback at this point. I lean the spread, but I feel more comfortable taking the Packers team total over here, 27.5 points. Minus 115 on DraftKings. They've cashed it in 64% of the games this year. 9 out of 14 games, averaging 27.07 points per game this year. If we go ahead and narrow this down to the last 5 games, they've cashed this in 4 consecutive games versus the Niners, Dolphins, Lions, and Seahawks. They're on a really great run here. I bet against the Packers way too much this year for being an owner. Way too much. I do like Green Bay in this spot to score 28 points in this match. They scored at least 30 points each of the last 4 games. The Saints defense, they're not terrible. They actually are halfway decent from a data standpoint. Look at the Saints defense. Tied for 13th in scoring. Now from right here, 28th in passing yards allowed. 27, the rushing was not very good. But they have a decent pass rush, and they force a decent amount of turnovers. They're pretty efficient on third down. Again, not a good defense. And they're also efficient in the red zone, top 10 red zone defense in the NFL. Like I said, they're not a great defense. I wouldn't even say they're a good defense, but they're an average defense, and that gives me a little cause for concern. Maybe Green Bay can't get to that 28-point total, but they should be able to. The Saints, again, they're just not having that great of a season overall. I think the team total over is the way to go here because I think 14 points is a lot of points. I know the Saints are kind of beaten down. The Packers are a really good run, but with the way the Saints have been playing the last couple of weeks, they almost pulled the upset last week against the Commanders. I take the points on the Green Bay total over 27.5 points. All right, guys, now moving on to the parlay and teaser portion of today's video. Starting things off, we have a simple 3-leg money line parlay. These are the 3 teams. I'd be pretty surprised if they lost this game. We got Bengals money line, Eagles money line, and Rams money line all in the 1 p.m. window. I just think all those teams, they have the Eagles not so much, but the Rams and the Bengals, they have playoff stuff at stake. They're all pretty favorable matchups for the teams. The riskiest one I think is the Eagles there. I know the odds-wise the Jets-Rams one. I think the Eagles are the riskiest because Commanders do have the potential for an upset, but I think the Eagles still take care of business. It'll be a tight game, an ugly game maybe, but I think the Eagles will take care of business. It's a 3-leg parlay plus 188 odds. Next up, we're taking a big swing here, guys. 5-leg parlay, all full of alternate spreads. These are all favorites, but these are games I think they should all win. Bengals minus 6.5, Rams minus 2.5, Falcons minus 6.5, Bills minus 9.5, and Buccaneers minus 2.5. You parlay all 5 together, you get a parlay of, whoops, sorry about that, guys. Parlay of plus 972 for a 5-leg parlay. Again, we're just betting the favorites. I think they're in the best spots. Good matchups. We're just basically taking a few points off of each total to make it a little more favorable here. The riskiest one again, the Rams game, that's a little risky. The Falcons, but like all good matchups though. The Bills to win by 10, the Buccaneers to win by a field goal against the Cowboys. We're just making the lines a little more favorable. I think all these teams should win. I'd be again, upsets happen for sure, but I'd be surprised if any of these teams lose. All right, guys, this one is crazy. Please take it with a grain of salt. Do not put your house on it. I'm trying to I thought, hey, it's a fun idea to throw out there. It's a parlay where we're just basically trying to pick out every single money line from this rest of this slate and parlay them together and see, can we sweep the board? Can we go 13-0 on guessing it's basically a pick 'em, right? Can we go 13-0 on pick 'em? Can we guess every single NFL outcome correctly? It's a long shot, but hey, it's just money line. We don't have to worry about spread. 13-leg parlay plus 16,091 odds. If you were to go ahead and bet $100 on that, you'd obviously win $16,191. Again, we're just trying to pick and see, can we get the whole slate right? So Lions money line, Bengals money line, Eagles money line, Rams, Falcons, Jaguars, Bucks, Packers, Dolphins, Bills, Seahawks, Colts, Cardinals. Those are the teams. We do have a couple underdogs winning. We have the Seahawks, we have the Dolphins, we have the Jaguars. We have a couple underdogs, but a lot of favorites, obviously. But yeah, just trying to pick the winner of every single game and see, can we get that parlay to work? So plus 16,091 odds. Hey, sprinkle $10 on this parlay wins you $1,619. Worth throwing $10 on, in my opinion. All right, guys, now moving on to the teaser portion of today's video. We have our must-win tease. Comment must-win down below, and if this teaser hits, one lucky commenter will be selected with a free $20 Amazon gift card. All right, so 3-leg teaser. It's a 7-point tease plus 130 odds. I love doing these every week. We have the Bengals minus 2.5, the Falcons minus 2.5, and the Bills minus 7. Again, it's plus 130 odds for all those teams just to cover their numbers. Again, I think they all win outright, obviously. We're just taking these down quite a bit to make them more favorable. Looks like a really good teaser to me. Next up, guys, we have our total tease, a 3-leg teaser, plus 130 odds, 7-point tease. We're looking at these totals and just basically taking a touchdown off of every total. So we have Rams Jets over 40, Cardinals Panthers over 40, and Patriots Bills over 39.5. All right, we have another teaser. I don't really have a name for this one, guys. A 4-leg teaser, plus 200 odds, 7-point tease. We have Lions even. They just have to beat the Bears, and they cover. We have Rams plus 4. They can now lose to the Jets as long as they cover the spread. They're fine. Bills minus 7. Again, I think Buffalo rinses them, so just keep doing that. We could end up, if the Patriots upset them somehow, could end up aging horribly, but I think the Bills should run over that team. And then we have Bucks plus 3. They can now lose to the Cowboys as long as they keep it, relatively close. But I think the Bucks should win that game as well. Spoiler for my Sunday Night Football picks video. And then wrapping things up, guys, we have our big tease, 4-leg teaser, minus 140 odds, a 13-point tease. These ones typically normally hit. You're basically taking 2 touchdowns off the spread. So we have Bengals plus 3.5. They can now lose to the Browns as long as they keep within a field goal. They cover. We have Rams plus 10. Again, they can lose also as long as they keep it within 10 points. They cover. Bucks plus 9. Again, if they lose, all these teams are going to win, by the way. But if the Bucks do lose, as long as they lose within 10 points, or within 9 points, I should say, they cover. And then Bills minus 1. The Bills basically just need to win the game, and they cover. It's minus 140 odds, 13-point teaser. But guys, that is it for me today. Thank you very much, always, for watching. One more time, please make sure to go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and drop a comment down below. And please, if you guys could, keep my grandmother in your prayers. If you're not very religious, just keep her in your thoughts. I really do appreciate all that support, guys. I will be back next week with another edition of the NFL Oracle for Week 17. We got 2 weeks left of regular season football, guys. Let that sink in for a second. We are nearly done with the regular season. The Oracle, by the way, will continue on through the playoffs. We'll be doing it every week through the playoffs. Obviously, the videos will get shorter. The picks, the amount of picks will probably get shorter as well as we eliminate some of these teams out of here. But we have 2 more full slates left before we move on to playoff football, guys. Love this show. Love doing this with you guys. And I can't wait to finish the season off on a strong note. Until next week, I hope you're all winners. Enjoy NFL Week 16 and have a very Merry Christmas.